Don't forget to go to ashkicking.com for pound the best home health and beauty fragrance products.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Yes, sir. Let me dig into your brain. Folks falling like...
The mess that the decavs get away with in the sport of boxing, and only in the sport of boxing. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Now, let me go ahead and issue a disclaimer right now because we about to get into this real deep. We about to get real deep. And I know the racists, they hate when they're exposed. So then they start defending being racist and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying to all the racist decavs right now, this is your opportunity to stop this video if you don't want to hear the truth and the whole truth. You stop the video, you unsubscribe, because quite frankly, I really don't even want you guys on the channel. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and only have the comments approved, because whenever it comes to videos like this, where I'm about to go real deep on their ass, this is when they love to flood the comment section. Oh, but they'll never call in when we do the radio show, try to push that same crap that they push in the comment section. No, they only put that in the comment section because they know that they don't have to explain themselves. They could go ahead and say whatever they want to say and not be held accountable. But when you're talking to someone directly, then you're put on the spot. That's why they don't like to call in, but they'll sit there, listen to the whole show, do little drive-bys in the comment section and keep it pushing. Because it is therapeutic for them to just say things that makes them feel better. They know it's not true, but it's therapeutic for them. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and get into this ridiculous news when it comes to Dan Rafael. Or maybe I should say, this ridiculous Dan Rafael when it comes to this news. So Guillermo Rigondeaux, he reported on his Instagram that ESPN's Dan Rafael personally and directly blocked Rigo from his Twitter account. Once again, we're talking about ESPN. We're not talking about like some small ass YouTube channel. We're not talking about just some fan that came to watch one of Rigo's fights or whatever the case may be. Maybe a fan that was rooting against Rigo. We are talking about ESPN. Dan Rafael, he blocks Guillermo from his Twitter account. Now, this is what Guillermo Rigo had to say about being blocked by ESPN's Dan Rafael. Quote, and at the beginning, guys, I think Rigo, he meant to say, my number one fan, which he was referring to Dan Rafael, but I'm gonna quote exactly what he said. My fan's number one loves me so much that he needed to take a break from my Twitter account for medical reasons. I think something to the effect, Rigo's Twitter is too addicting, so he blocked me. Hashtag Dan Rafael, end quote. Let me start by saying this. What makes this situation so egregious, but at the same time, there's a lot about what Dan Rafael just did that made this extremely personal and offensive. Allow me to go ahead and break it down right now. First thing you notice, when you look at this picture I have up on the screen right here, this is Dan Rafael's Twitter account, right? As you see, this man is promoting Leo Santa Cruz and he's promoting Gennady Golovkin. He has a picture with him and Golovkin as his profile pic, right? And his background pic is Leo Santa Cruz. Someone who conveniently and coincidentally avoided Guillermo Rigo by all means necessary. This is the guy that he's promoting on his Twitter is Dan Rafael, while at the same time blocking Rigo from his Twitter. I mean, if you really think about it, it's almost like Rigo, Golovkin, and Leo Santa Cruz going to a club, right? Dan Rafael, he lets Golovkin in, he lets Leo Santa Cruz in, and then all of a sudden Rigo pops up and he says, hey, you can't get in the club. I'm sorry, you just can't get in. I don't have no reason why you can't get in. You just can't get in. Sorry. Rigo is like, is it full to capacity? I mean, what's going on in there? And Dan like, no, man, you just can't come in. You just can't come in. I mean, this is pretty much what Dan Rafael just did. I said this is egregious for so many reasons. Because for one, the word professionalism, it comes to mind when I first look at stuff like this. When I see things like this, Dan Rafael is supposed to be a professional. Once again, we're not talking about a small timer. We're talking about someone who represents the biggest sporting network in America, right? I'm telling you guys right now, if you have been listening to my channel for quite some time, then you know that I have called out all of these hypocritical as double standards since day one. And almost everything that I've told you guys about, it's coming to fruition. Like I tell you guys all the time, man, the truth will always come to light, for better or worse, right? I mean, we've seen what happened in Charlotte with racist people just being racist and proud, walking down the street, not even trying to sugarcoat it or hide it anymore. And if you really think about it, it's getting to that point in the sport of boxing where you have some of these racist media members that are coming out almost in a blatant fashion. For those of you guys who don't know the history of Dan Rafael, or the recent history, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to Dan Rafael, he has a history and a pattern of treating fighters on the coincidental list just like he's treating Rigo right now. Dan Rafael, he treats Andre Ward the exact same way he's treating Rigo right now. Remember, guys, Dan Rafael works for the biggest sporting network in America. Dan doesn't have to pay to fly to these different countries and states to cover these fights. ESPN pays for all of that. So why is it before Andre Ward fought Sergey Kovalev, his last two fights against Alexander Brand and Barrera, Sullivan Barrera, why is it the only reporter that represents ESPN boxing and sports didn't go and cover Andre Ward's fight, which generated over 1 million views when he fought against Sullivan Barrera? And yet, Dan Rafael, he didn't go and report either one of those fights in his own country. Remember, Dan Rafael is an American reporter, right? American-based. But yet, at the same time, when Golovkin fought against Kell Brook, that's when this same reporter, Dan, he flew all the way to the UK to cover two foreigners. But he couldn't even cover a gold medalist that represented his own country in his own backyard. Dan couldn't go down the street to cover Ward's last two fights before the Kovalev fight. But he can go overseas and he could cover Golovkin versus Kell Brook. Oh, but then when another fighter on the coincidental list, Errol Spence, when he traveled all the way to the UK to fight Kell Brook, do you think Dan Rafael flew out there to cover it? No, he didn't fly out there to cover the fight when Errol Spence was fighting against Kell Brook, but he did when Golovkin did. You see the pattern? I'm telling you guys, only in the sport of boxing can commentators, reporters, boxers pretty much say whatever they want without really being held accountable. Now, and I give credit to Mikey Garcia because when I asked him about him posting this picture, he did apologize for it. But still, only in the sport of boxing can Mikey Garcia post a picture of a black person being Donkey Kong, because that's the way it was perceived. He put a picture of him as Mickey Mouse and Adrian Broner as Donkey Kong. Only in the sport of boxing can you do something like that and not deal with a category 5 hurricane of criticism. Don't get me wrong, you may have, well, not in this situation. Actually, nobody even talked about this except for myself, right? But only in boxing, because if this was in the NFL, the NBA, if this was in baseball, it would be a much bigger story. We know this to be true. If this was a celebrity, like a Mel Gibson or a Michael Richardson, who used to be on Seinfeld, we seen what their remarks, what their comments did to their career, pretty much ended their career, right? But once again, boxing is this wild, wild sport, wild, wild west sport. And a lot of the media members, they're so biased that they like these guys, they'll try to defend them, right? Only in boxing. Only in boxing, like I said, can Mikey Garcia post something like that. Only in boxing can Sergey Kovalev call a black man a monkey. Only in boxing can Conor McGregor call black people monkeys. Only in boxing can a man that represents the biggest sporting network in the country block, pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world that has done nothing to him while promoting other fighters that he personally likes. Just to give you a better perspective, a more clear picture, just in case you're not getting it yet, let's go ahead and reverse everything. Let's play Trading Places for a second. Now, just imagine, let's just say hypothetically, imagine if Gennady Golovkin, if he was really pound for pound the best fighter in the world, like let's say he was the Andre Ward where he accomplished so much. Let's say it was Golovkin that moved up in weight, knocked out Kovalev. Matter of fact, let's make it sound real good. Let's just say he moved up in weight and knocked out Andre Ward, right? And he's already beat like 4 or 5 fighters that were considered pound for pound the best at the time, right? So he's universally considered pound for pound the best fighter in the world, right? Now imagine if the vast majority of the media and even boxing fans were black, right? And then you have a reporter, the only reporter that represents ESPN, and he's a black guy. Now imagine that guy blocking Golovkin from his Twitter while having pictures of black fighters on his Twitter that aren't even on the level of Gennady Golovkin. Are you guys seeing this picture? And at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter who's better. Only thing that really matters at the end of the day is treating people equally, right? Because everyone is supposed to be created equal. Something else I meant to add when it comes to Dan Rafael not covering Andre Ward's last 2 fights before the Kovalev fight. To add insult to injury, after Andre Ward dominated Alexander Brand, Dan Rafael, he wrote an article entitled it, "The Most Boring Fight on HBO Ever," talking about Ward versus Kovalev. Matter of fact, I posted the title on my Facebook. He wrote an article and he said Ward versus Brand was the most boring fight ever on HBO. So Andre Ward is the most boring fighter ever. Coincidentally, this is exactly what they would say about Floyd Mayweather. No matter how Floyd Mayweather won. I mean, it didn't matter if Floyd had a bloody nose and he was fighting toe-to-toe against bigger fighters like Cotto. It didn't matter if he was walking down bigger, much younger, bigger fighters like Canelo Alvarez. It didn't matter. They still tried to push that narrative because it's therapeutic for them to deal with their personal hate and disdain they have towards that fighter. That's how they deal with the hate, right? But to block Rigo from your Twitter, when you have never blocked Lomachenko, you've never blocked Kovalev. I mean, Sergey Kovalev, he calls black people monkeys. I don't see you blocking him. He's not blocking Mikey Garcia. He's not blocking any of these guys, but he blocks Guillermo Rigo. Let me tell you something. As a professional, regardless, even though Kovalev has done those things, like I said, calling black people monkeys or posting pictures of a black person being a monkey, I've never thought about blocking any of them from my social sites. Because now we're just going beyond boxing. It's too personal. And that's how it is for Dan Rafael. Dan Rafael is such a decaf, and he knows that ESPN and the majority of the decaf world of boxing, when it comes to fans and media members and so on and so forth, they're going to condone it. They're going to allow him to do this. They're going to make him feel comfortable with this type of ignorance. And it's extremely appalling and offensive and very unprofessional. I'm going to go ahead and end it right now. I got to take care of some business. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.